A map to stolen gold lured two firefighters into a building they might never escape. That simple treasure hunt became one of the grittiest action thrillers of 1992, but its most shocking story unfolded off-screen. One star died after a medical error that stunned Hollywood, while others survived devastating accidents, casting disputes and terrifying brushes with death. 34 years later, this is the Trespass cast in 2026. Let's begin with Bill Paxton. He played Vince, the firefighter whose hope for an ordinary payday turns into a desperate fight over millions of dollars in stolen gold when he was 37 years old. That role brought the quiet confidence and humanity that made Vince feel like an ordinary working man trapped inside an extraordinary nightmare. That same grounded screen presence soon carried Paxton into some of Hollywood's biggest hits, including Aliens, Twister, and Titanic, while his leading role in HBO's Big Love later earned him 3 Golden Globe nominations. Yet the most devastating chapter of his life unfolded far from a movie set. Damage caused by rheumatic fever at the age of 13 silently weakened his heart for decades, eventually leading to an aortic aneurysm and a failing heart valve. In February 2017, he underwent surgery at Cedars-Sinai Medical Center, expecting to recover and return to work. Instead, severe post-operative complications triggered a massive stroke that claimed his life on February 25th at just 61 years old. His sudden death stunned Hollywood, but the story did not end there. Paxton's family filed a wrongful death lawsuit, accusing the hospital and surgeon of performing an unnecessarily risky procedure and failing to respond quickly enough as his condition deteriorated. The legal battle lasted for years before reaching a confidential settlement in 2022, leaving behind not only one of Hollywood's most respected actors, but also one of its most heartbreaking medical controversies. Next came Ice-T as King James. At 34, he played the ruthless gang leader who would rather start a war than surrender a fortune in stolen gold. Ice-T brought the role a level of authenticity that few actors could match, drawing on the same fearless image that had already made him one of America's most controversial rap stars. That intensity soon carried into a successful acting career, reaching millions of television viewers through Law and Order, Special Victims Unit. He also earned a Grammy Award with Body Count for Bum Rush in 2021, proving his influence extended far beyond acting. Yet long before fame arrived, tragedy had already shaped his life. His mother died of a heart attack while he was in the 3rd grade, and his father died from the same condition when he was just 12, leaving him to be raised by relatives before eventually becoming involved with Los Angeles street gangs. Ironically, the same year Trespass was released, Ice-T found himself at the center of one of America's biggest cultural controversies when Body Count's Cop Killer sparked nationwide outrage and was later removed from future releases of the album. Now 68, he remains a star of Law and Order, SVU, and one of hip-hop's most influential pioneers. William Sadler stepped into Trespass as Don, Vince's longtime partner whose excitement over finding hidden gold slowly gives way to suspicion, betrayal, and violence. He was 42 when he took on the role, bringing a quiet intensity that made Don's gradual moral collapse feel believable from beginning to end. Hollywood quickly recognized that same quality, casting Sadler in unforgettable roles such as Colonel Stewart in Die Hard 2, Grim Reaper in Bill and Ted's Bogus Journey, and Haywood in The Shawshank Redemption, performances that established him as one of the industry's finest character actors. Success, however, came with an unexpected price. Casting directors became so convinced he was born to play ruthless villains, military officers, and intimidating authority figures that dramatically different roles became increasingly rare. Sadler later admitted the constant typecasting was one of the greatest frustrations of his career, forcing him to return to the theater repeatedly simply to prove the range Hollywood refused to see. While many actors endured turbulent personal lives, Sadler found stability away from the spotlight, remaining married to actress Marnie Joan Boxt since 1977, one of the entertainment industry's longest-lasting marriages. Today, at 76 years old, he appears in film and television, earning admiration through consistency, versatility, and a career that has quietly endured for more than 5 decades. Next came Glenn Plummer. At just 31 years old, he brought Luther to life, the desperate thief whose impulsive choices set the entire tragedy in motion inside the abandoned warehouse. Plummer gave the character a restless, unpredictable energy that made him impossible to ignore, even alongside a cast packed with larger-than-life personalities. The performance further cemented his reputation as one of Hollywood's busiest character actors, opening the door to memorable roles in Menace to Society, Speed, Showgirls, and later the acclaimed television series Sons of Anarchy. Yet despite becoming one of those familiar faces audiences instantly recognized, true leading man opportunities never arrived. Instead, he spent decades building a career through supporting roles, often facing long stretches between major projects and the financial uncertainty that came with them. His personal life proved no less turbulent. After marrying singer Denise Lawton in 2013, the relationship quickly unraveled, and their divorce the following year sparked disputes over property and financial responsibilities, adding even more strain during an already unpredictable stage of his career. Rather than walking away from Hollywood, Plummer simply kept working wherever the opportunities appeared. Now 65 years old, he continues acting in television and independent films, earning respect not through superstardom, but through the remarkable perseverance that has sustained a career spanning more than 4 decades. Savan barely pauses before reaching for his gun, and that explosive temper made him one of the most dangerous members of King James's crew in Trespass. Ice Cube was only 23 years old when he took on the role, bringing the confidence and intensity of a young rapper whose music had already helped reshape American hip-hop. After emerging as one of the driving forces behind the legendary group NWA, he successfully reinvented himself through films such as Boys and the Hood, The Friday Franchise, Barbershop, and 21 Jump Street, while also building an impressive career as a writer and producer. That success, however, grew out of one of rap music's most infamous feuds. His departure from NWA in 1989 over royalty disputes sparked a bitter exchange of diss tracks and public accusations that permanently fractured the group's original lineup. Nearly 3 decades later, controversy found him again. In 2020, Ice Cube faced intense criticism after meeting with officials from the Trump administration to discuss his proposed contract with Black America, a move that divided both fans and political commentators. The following year, he reportedly walked away from the comedy Oh Hell No, giving up an estimated $9 million after refusing the production's COVID-19 vaccination requirement. By 2026, at 57 years old, Ice Cube continues balancing films, television, music, and business, while remaining one of entertainment's most successful crossover stars. Then came Tom "Tiny" Lister Jr. as Cletus. Standing 6 feet 5 inches tall, he barely needed to say a word before dominating every scene he entered, making Cletus one of the film's most intimidating figures. Lister was 34 when Trespass was released, and his imposing presence quickly established him as one of Hollywood's most sought-after tough guys throughout the 1990s. Audiences would later remember him best as the unforgettable Debo in Friday, while others recognized him as President Lindbergh in The Fifth Element. Yet behind that fearsome image was a man who had spent his entire life overcoming adversity. Born blind in his right eye because of a detached retina, Lister never allowed the condition to stop him from excelling in athletics before eventually building a successful acting career. Off-screen, life proved even more challenging. In 2012, he became entangled in a federal fraud case involving a $3.8 million mortgage scheme. After pleading guilty to conspiracy, he received 5 years of probation and was ordered to pay substantial restitution. At the same time, diabetes and worsening heart disease gradually took a heavy toll on his health. In December 2020, after experiencing symptoms that initially raised concerns about COVID-19, Lister was found dead at his California home. The official cause was later determined to be hypertensive and atherosclerotic cardiovascular disease, with diabetes mellitus listed as a significant contributing factor. He was 62 years old, leaving behind his wife Felicia Forbes, their daughter, and one of the most unforgettable screen presences of his generation. Then there was Art Evans as Bradley, the one man caught in the nightmare who never wanted any part of it. Hidden inside the abandoned building, Bradley appears to be little more than a frightened homeless man, quietly reminding viewers that not everyone trapped in the violence chose to be there. Evans was 50 when he took on the role, drawing on decades of experience that had already made him one of Hollywood's most dependable character actors. Audiences knew him from films such as Fright Night and especially Die Hard 2, where his performance as air traffic controller Leslie Barnes became one of the film's most memorable supporting roles. Unlike many actors who chased the spotlight, Evans preferred a quiet life, remaining happily married to Babe Evans since 1975, while steadily building a career across film, television, and theater. His greatest challenge arrived years after the cameras stopped rolling. Severe complications from diabetes gradually stole his eyesight, eventually leaving him completely blind and forcing him to retire from acting after 2010. Now 84 years old, Art Evans lives largely out of the public eye, remembered not for headline-grabbing fame, but for the warmth, dignity, and quiet authenticity he brought to every role he played. For Devereaux White, Trespass arrived after millions of moviegoers had already fallen in love with another unforgettable character. At just 27 years old, he followed his breakout success as the cheerful limousine driver Argyle in Die Hard by taking on the role of Lucky, hoping to build the momentum into a lasting Hollywood career. His easygoing charisma had made Argyle one of the most beloved supporting characters in the action classic, and many expected White to become a familiar face in major studio productions. Instead, the opposite happened. The enormous popularity of Die Hard became both a blessing and a burden, as casting directors increasingly associated him with that single performance, while meaningful new opportunities became harder to find. As the years passed, his appearances on screen grew less frequent, and the promising career many predicted never fully materialized. Rather than remaining trapped by disappointment, White chose an entirely different path. Drawing on his own life experience and a desire to help others, he transitioned into work as a clinical counselor, supporting individuals recovering from substance abuse and addiction. Although he stepped away from the Hollywood spotlight, he found a new purpose helping people rebuild their lives. By 2026, at 61 years old, Devereaux White is remembered not only for Argyle and Lucky, but also for quietly reinventing himself beyond the film industry after fame faded. Next was John Toles-Bey as Goose. Although his screen time was limited, Goose became one of the many lives swept into the deadly search for hidden gold inside the abandoned warehouse. Toles-Bey was 40 when Trespass was released, by which time he had already built a reputation for portraying tough, streetwise characters whose quiet intensity often lingered long after they left the screen. Throughout the 1990s, he steadily expanded his resume with films including The Water Dance, Blood In, Blood Out, and later Foolish, while audiences also recognized him from Out for Justice and eventually Dude, Where's My Car? Leading roles never came his way, but he earned lasting respect as one of those dependable character actors who could bring credibility and authenticity to gritty crime dramas. Tragically, his story ended far too soon. After years of battling serious heart disease, Toles-Bey died on December 12, 2010, just 5 days after celebrating his 58th birthday. The official cause was complications from cardiomyopathy and congestive heart failure, bringing an untimely end to a career that still seemed to have much more to offer. Even today, fans of classic crime films continue to remember the quiet conviction he brought to every role, no matter how brief. Before he pointed a gun as Wicked in Trespass, Millions of people had already seen Stoney Jackson without necessarily knowing his name. Long before the film's release, he had become one of the athletic young faces of 1980s television, even appearing alongside Michael Jackson in the legendary Beat It music video. Jackson was 32 years old when he joined Trespass, following memorable roles in series including The White Shadow and 227, where his confident screen presence made him a familiar face throughout the decade. Teen magazines such as Tiger Beat, Teen Beat, and Right On regularly featured him, reflecting the popularity he enjoyed during his early career. Hollywood, however, proved far less predictable than fame. As the 1990s progressed, starring opportunities became increasingly limited, and Jackson gradually shifted into occasional supporting appearances in projects such as Angels in the Outfield and The Fan instead of the steady television work he once enjoyed. His career slowed not because of scandal, addiction, or personal controversy, but because the industry moved in a different direction. Today, at 66 years old, Stoney Jackson is remembered as one of those recognizable performers whose face instantly recalls the energy of 1980s film, television, and music culture. Then came Bruce A. Young as Raymond. Usually standing close beside King James, Raymond rarely needed many words to make his presence felt, serving as one of the gang members who helped turn an abandoned warehouse into a deadly trap for Vince and Don. By the time Trespass was released, Young had already spent more than a decade building his career after making his screen debut in the early 1980s. Rather than chasing leading man status, he established himself as one of Hollywood's most dependable character actors, appearing in films such as Basic Instinct and Jurassic Park 3 while becoming a familiar face on television. His best-known role came as Captain Simon Banks throughout all 65 episodes of The Sentinel from 1996 to 1999, introducing him to millions of viewers. Earlier, he had also earned a Joseph Jefferson Award nomination for his stage work in Chicago, demonstrating that his talent reached far beyond the screen. Even with more than 100 film and television credits to his name, Young spent decades living the reality shared by many character actors, continually earning the next role instead of relying on celebrity. Free from the scandals and public controversies that derailed many careers, he quietly built a reputation for consistency and professionalism. In 2026, at 70 years old, Bruce A. Young remains respected as one of those rare performers whose longevity has always mattered more than fame. Few actors can say they spent 4 decades returning to the same stage role, but Hal Landon Jr. built exactly that kind of extraordinary legacy long before audiences discovered him in Trespass. He was 51 years old when he appeared as Eugene DeLong, balancing occasional film work with a theater career that had already become his true calling. Moviegoers knew him as Captain Logan, Ted's strict father in Bill, and Ted's Excellent Adventure and its sequels, while David Lynch fans remembered his appearance in Eraserhead. Away from Hollywood, however, Landon's greatest achievement unfolded on stage. Beginning in 1980, he portrayed Ebenezer Scrooge in South Coast Repertory's annual production of A Christmas Carol, returning to the role every holiday season until his retirement in 2020 after roughly 40 consecutive years. Remaining loyal to regional theater meant accepting far less fame and financial reward than many screen actors pursued, but it also allowed him to become one of America's most celebrated stage Scrooges. His personal life reflected the same stability, with a long-lasting marriage and 2 children away from the spotlight. In 2026, at 85 years old, Hal Landon Jr. remains admired as an actor who measured success through artistic dedication rather than Hollywood celebrity. So that's the Trespass 1992 cast in 2026. Which cast member surprised you the most? And who was your favorite character in the film? Let us know in the comments, and don't forget to like, subscribe, and turn on notifications for more Then and Now videos.